Hello gamers from around the world, this is Boxenberger, the video game enthusiast from Germany, and I would like to welcome you to the Man Flu podcast, because Dutch and I, yeah, we're still both little sick, so if in case I have to mute myself today a little more often than usual, that's because I'm still coughing up disgusting stuff, but that's not why we're here. We are here to talk about games, gaming, and the gaming news. And I would like to welcome everyone. The chat is already filling up with a lot of familiar names. Great to see you all. I would also like to welcome, of course, everyone who listens after the fact on, the typical podcast services around the globe. I'm already messing things up because we have a premiere here today. We have changed softwares, and on the weekend, Dutch, we had a test stream. We're streaming now in 1440p and 60 FPS at a pretty high bitrate, actually, which is awesome. So Dutch, I went out and looked, and outside of the Midweek Mixed podcast, I haven't seen any other bigger podcast do this. Not even the big ones, yeah? Not even like the IGNs do stream above 1080p. So we are here now in crisp 1440p, 60 FPS, and you can hear the excitement in my voice, because now, guys, you can hear and watch us in a glorious, crispy quality, which is absolutely awesome.
Absolutely. And like you say, it's not many people do it. I don't know why either, because it just adds such a sharp and crisp image to it, and gameplay looks better, and
everything looks better. Yeah, it is. You can actually read like the text, and especially when we watch gameplay, we will do that in a second, of course, as always. You can actually tell how much fidelity goes into these games and everything. So yeah, man, I'm glad we were able to make the jump to 1440p. So that is freaking awesome. What is even more awesome are the many people that are watching us live here today, because we have a couple of really interesting stuff to talk about, man. I'm glad we are back. I'm glad. I'm itching to, dying to talk about some of these things. We will talk about Amazon publishing the next Tomb Raider. We will talk, of course, about the latest on the ABK deal. There's always something happening. Then we will talk about the rumored Xbox showcase. We will talk about some Fable rumors coming from Chess Corner. Then we have like the Game Awards aftermath. We will talk about Assassin's Creed Mirage and Jedi Survivor. And we will talk about the worst games of the year, man. So, and a lot more. A lot more. So it's going to be an awesome show. And I think we're ready for the games of the week. So we are back. I still have to get used to this. Now that we use a different software, we cannot hear the jingles anymore. It's the audio of the jingles is only available on YouTube. So for us, it's like 10 seconds of silence. And I still have to get used to that, man.
It's a little bit of silence. You get used to it. Remember when we made the transition from StreamYard to OBS? It was exactly the same. We no longer heard the intro music.
Yeah, and we're sitting there, the intro is playing, and we're still chatting about stuff. It's what it is, yeah? But that is a good thing, man. That is a good thing. All right. So, the games of the week. I want to know, as every week, from everyone in chat who is watching us live here, and of course from you, Dutch. What have you been playing?
Yes, so for me, it is. I finished off God of War, Ragnarok. I've got the platinum on that now, so that is done. It's one of them bittersweet moments, as you know, with a game that you love, you just don't want to finish it because
you don't want it to end. Yeah,
it's done. But it is finished. It was absolutely glorious. The side quests were awesome. The bosses were awesome. I just loved that game from start to finish. Outside of that, of course, I've been doing a lot of charity streaming, so I haven't really been playing too much different. I played a little bit of Uncharted the other day on stream. Went to Uncharted
which one?
4 for the first time.
4.
Uncharted 4.
Okay.
Yep.
Sweet. How do you like it?
I was like midway. I was in like chapter 6 the last time I'd played Uncharted 4, and I'd never went back to it because I think it was God of War came out or something like that. Because obviously when I picked up the PlayStation 4 Pro, it was literally to play God of War. So I picked up Uncharted and a few other games as well in the meantime, and I never actually went back and finished Uncharted. So I started Uncharted again the other day. So that was awesome. Of course, been playing Sea of Thieves as we do on every Tuesday. Yesterday we had our awesome podcast, but I've also had a chance in between that to play some High on Life, and that game is just hilarious.
It is
hilarious. Like the very start, as you mentioned, the very start of the game. Even if you ignore him as well, he's like, "Come on, guys, I'm your divorce lawyer. Like you get your wife. Come on, the alien." Yeah, I was like, "Okay, is this how it's starting? Is it right? Okay."
Yeah, it is, and it's just getting better, man. Have you found the knife yet?
Yes. Beat the first boss, got the knife.
Okay. Yeah. Sweet. Yeah, man, that game is hilarious. I've been playing that.
When I was literally as soon as we finished doing the podcast yesterday, my brother texted me again, the one I mentioned that really games. His question: Have you started playing High on Life yet? I was like, this is exactly his kind of humor, so he's gonna love this game. So I think everybody's like literally buzzing with it. I think the vast majority of the normal people find it hilarious, fun, silly, really good looking. Graphically, it's quite cool. Gameplay is solid. It is.
I've seen a lot of people complain about performance, but that was prior to the day one patch. So I think after the day one patch, basically it runs really well. Of course, in some areas you can notice a few dips here and there, but honestly, with VRR on, it is barely noticeable. No, it is a super fun game. I did not expect to have so much fun with it. I just want to hear the guns talk. Honestly, could listen to them all day. It's just so funny. And there's so much crazy stuff going on.
The gun kept on getting angry with me because I kept trying to shoot everybody in sight, and he was like, "No, you can't shoot him. Stop trying to murder people. We've murdered enough people."
Yeah. And later they will, like, when you a little bit further in the game and you shoot like the little enemies, the boring opponents, the gun will tell you, killing those little bastards doesn't satisfy me, and stuff like that. It's like, it's hilarious, man. Let me briefly thank Drawn TJ. He sends in the first super chat of the day. Thank you so much for the generosity. He says, "Hey guys, did you hear about the breaking news of ABK deal about the unions?" Yes, we have. We have it in the topics, and we will get to that. Quite an interesting comment from or announcement from the unions there, and it's baffling to me that the FTC is not listening to those kind of things. But we will get to that. We will get to that, Tron TJ, for sure. Let's see what have people been playing in the chat. Carolina Gamer is playing Warhammer Darktide and High on Life. Siki was playing Skyrim and is now playing Overwatch 2 and The Witcher 3. Oh yeah, we will talk about that in a second as well. So yeah, for me, it's I see a lot. Paul is also playing High on Life. think a lot of people play High on Life these days. Masshole is also playing High on Life and Halo stuff. Sean, The Last of Us. So yeah, good stuff here. The Red-Eyed Jedi is his new game plus on Witcher 3, which is awesome. Vault Boy, Witcher 3, and Dying Light 2. Man, Dying Light. It's so good. Such a fantastic game. Painful Discourse is playing the Halo Winter Update. Hertog Win, our pineapple pizza lover, he is playing Spider-Man and Vampire Survivors. Good stuff. The community has a great taste. So yeah, obviously I've also been playing High on Life. And I've been playing this one here, Dutch. This one. I'm playing this again.
Of course you are.
Of course I am. I'm back. My 5th complete playthrough of The Witcher 3. This time with the next gen patch on the Xbox Series X. This is now like the performance mode on Series X. What you see here. I tried the ray tracing mode, but honestly, it's really not worth the 30 FPS. The FPS sacrifice is just too much. I mean, it looks good, and you can tell that they've added a little bit more than even ray tracing. Like the water quality, for instance, is noticeably better. But overall, yeah, not worth like the sacrifice in frame rates. So I've decided to play it on the performance mode. It runs in dynamic 4K and it runs butter smooth with VRR, absolutely flawless. And it's still, and you can tell here from the footage I recorded the other day, it's really, really a beautiful game. It sucks you in again, like. This world is just so well done. Like the conversations, the world building when you walk into a village and people just either like you, don't like you because you're a mutant, whatever. It's just man, it's so well done. I just love the game. I love like crafting again. You know, getting the right oils for the right enemies, getting everything set up for the bigger fights. It's just, man, it's such a great game. I love it. So I didn't want to spoil too much. So it's literally the first hour that we are watching now, where basically nothing happens. Yeah.
It does look a lot cleaner, and let's face it, this performance mode looks really smooth. Like it looks even smoother than the 4K 60 version we had previously.
Yes, absolutely. It does. Really stable.
I don't know also whether or not it's just the fact that we've got this glorious 2K 60 stream. That's helping this.
It's helping. It's helping, man. That's why I'm so excited that we have now the opportunity to show people how good these games actually look. Yeah, and It is butter smooth. You can really tell that they implemented the higher texture quality. Like when you get really close to trees or walls in buildings and such, it looks just so good. And that, you know what I'm doing? I'm spending way too much time in photo mode. It finally has a photo mode.
We did say this was going to happen.
Yeah. It is, but I love it. It is such a fantastic game, and they made it even better. And I have not played the additional new content, the new quests and everything, because those come later in the game. Cannot wait for those as well. So I think this is gonna keep me busy over Christmas. I intend to play all DLC as well because it's just awesome. It's just fantastic. But let me briefly thank Drawn TJ in the chat. He sends in another super chat. Thank you, man, for the support. And he says, sorry. Yeah, it's the coughing, dude. It just won't stop. He says we need to play Age of Empires 2 and 4 when it comes to Xbox and Company of Heroes 3. Most certainly, end of January. I think January 24th or so. Age of Empires 2 is gonna drop on consoles, and I can't wait. I want to see how they implemented like the controls and everything. And I haven't played H2 in a long time. So that's definitely gonna be awesome, man. And we definitely have to align there and get some matches done. H is so good. What else have people been playing? So Masshole just finished Summerville, which is very cool. Very cool. Dronty J is playing Halo, Dark Pictures, and Call of Duty. So Wade Johnson is playing Gotham Knights, Evil West, God of War, Callisto Protocol, and High on Life. Man, that's like a list of the best games of last year or this year. Right there. So yeah, man, good stuff in the community. Good stuff. But Dutch, let us move to the news of the week. All right. So we are back. Now I think when I switch, I did not know that Dutch. When you switch back the scenes, the gameplay starts from the very beginning.
You don't have to do that, by the way. If you go onto the video icon as well, and little kind of info tidbit for people watching, when you go on to the gameplay source that you've got, there is an option in the drop down to not restart when you change the scene, so it'll just continue playing, and then you can go back to it, and it'll just have the video playing as usual from where you left off.
Where is okay? I'm gonna have to look that up after the show, dude.
Yeah.
That is interesting. Very interesting. So sorry, guys. We're still new, but I hope. Let us know in chat if you enjoy the new high-res world of gaming in 1440p, and if you like that. So we are still learning. And let me briefly shout out Xbox International Podcast. He's in the chat. The Crazy Louis, the Crazy Man is in the chat, even though he has his bachelor party later today. So that is awesome. Shout out to you, man. But Dutch, we have almost breaking news. Breaking news. I know Tomb Raider is beloved by not just you, but by many in the community. And we know that Crystal is working on a new Tomb Raider game running in the Unreal Engine 5. They are obviously not gonna use the Square Enix engine. What was it called? Blanking on the name now. Doesn't matter. Obviously, they're not gonna use that anymore. They are gonna use the Unreal Engine 5, and that game is gonna be published by Amazon. Amazon Game Studios is gonna publish that, which is interesting because Crystal is now owned by Embracer, and Embracer has many publishing arms. So there's obviously the question, why? Why did they outsource that to another company, namely Amazon? What do you think?
I think it must have been a financial decision. I think Amazon, specifically for Tomb Raider, there might be something else in it. There might be another deal attached to it that we haven't been made aware of yet, such as a new Amazon TV series, a new Amazon movie of Tomb Raider. It's been a while since we've had a Tomb Raider film. The last one was okay. It wasn't anything to shout home about, but it was okay. So it could have other contractual obligations beside it that works in their favor. So
it would make sense. Yeah.
If you publish this game for us, of course, and then we don't have the cost of publishing and distribution and all that stuff, then you can have the rights to create a new Tomb Raider or a new such and such. It could be in some kind of contractual obligation that way. But I think it's more financial. I think Embracer Group are very smart when it comes financially. I think when we looked at how much they managed to purchase Crystal Dynamics and all of those companies for, we looked at it and thought, God, that's cheap. Like,
Yeah,
like they've done a really good
it
deal
was a
with it.
steal. Yeah.
Yeah. I think financially, I think Embracer really know that they've got their heads screwed on. So I think this is purely a financial move. For me, anyway, that's what it looks like. It doesn't look like, judging by what I've read as well, it looks like it's mainly publishing. I think they said some support and publishing, so I don't think it's got much to do with the development of the game at all.
No, I don't think so. I don't think so either. I agree with you what you said in the beginning. I think it is somehow related to like having probably an Amazon series or something else coming a little later. I've seen people on Twitter directly jump on like, okay, this has something to do with Xbox buying a Crystal back from Embracer after the ABK deal is done and something like that. And while I still think this is not out of the realm of the possible, it just shows that Embracer as a publisher and like money giver, someone who funds these games, is having problems funding these AAA multi hundreds of millions of dollars for these big ass games. If we've talked about that when they acquired Crystal, it's weird because what does an Embracer want with such big studios? They have to invest hundreds of millions upfront to get a Tomb Raider done, yeah, and then and that's doesn't seem like their typical game, yeah. So that's why a lot of people speculate about, okay, what happens when ABK is done? Is Xbox gonna buy Crystal and Eidos Montreal off of Embracer again? Yeah, I don't know, but I think this deal shows that Embracer has a problem funding these AAA games, and that's why they went to Amazon. And maybe there's even a movie or a TV series attached to it. Yeah. So
I don't know whether or not it's a problem financing it, because I think financially they'll be fine. I think as an investment group, they know where they can get investments from, and they see this as a form of investment from Amazon as being the publishing arm for the game, getting external money to publish the game, and potentially having, like we say, but likely, if you've seen just how many games have been announced as films and movies, we've just had God of War announced as a film. We've seen Dead Rising's getting a film. We've like the investment in TV series and video and movies in the video game sector right now is absolutely nothing like we've ever seen before. There's something like almost 15 to 20 TV series or films being made about large TV series, with no Gears of Wars actually getting made now. We know the Halo series is in production. There's so many like across the board that's getting made now. So I see this as Amazon kind of getting okay, we'll publish that at no cost. We'll do the publishing on, but we want to create the next Tomb Raider, like give us the rights to create the next Tomb Raider film or series or whatever it is. I think that's it. It's like a win-win situation because, of course, to them, Embracer Group, then they could get additional kind of eyes on the Tomb Raider IP from whatever TV series or film that Amazon create.
I agree. That's true. That's true. It's ridiculous how many games are getting TV series now. BioShock as well. Dragon Age. It's crazy. Drawn TJ sends in a $5 super chat. Thank you, man. And he's got a question for you. And I have to say again, outstanding support here. Appreciate that, man. He says, "Hey Dutch, I got to ask, don't you work for Embracer?"
As a technicality, yes. As a technicality, yes. So one of the companies that I'm an ambassador for is Grimfrost, who are owned by Embracer. So there's a hand in hand as a technicality. Yes, Embracer do technically are one of my bosses.
There you go. There you go. So, but no insider information here, right?
I just know. The only information I know is how they treat companies and their outlook in their investments. Specifically, kind of the way they've negotiated with the company that we work with and why they took over. So I know kind of the remits for each one, and they've got reasoning for each takeover. And there is actually thought behind every takeover. So those who work for Crystal D and all of those companies that have been purchased, they'll have had the same internal email kind of explaining as to what the game plan is from Embracer, which is good news for them because they would have had, like Grimfrost have for us, we had a big full email saying, this is why we've done it. This is what they've offered us. So it's not just investment. What this allows us to do is work with video games, with music, with distribution and clothing, with X, Y, and Z, all of these things that make our life a lot easier. And this is why we've chosen to go down the route of having Embracer as our kind of large investor. And that's exactly what they'll be doing with Crystal D. They'll be saying, right, we purchased you, and this is why, and this is our game plan for you, and this is kind of how we're going to go about it going forward. So they'll have been given the full remit, and I think they'll be feeling pretty comfortable there as well. I don't see Embracer doing a quick fire sale of Crystal D either, like a lot of people think they might do with when Microsoft finished. I think they are definitely going to see how things pan out first. If, for instance, they can get a lot of money from Crystal D being farmed out to do sub-development, like they are with the Initiative and other projects, and if, for instance, they can say, right, okay, well, we will let Crystal D work on these games, but this is the cost, and they make a lot of money from that, as well as maybe doing their own IP every now and again, like a Tomb Raider, then I don't see why they would sell them. If it's something you can ship out, subcontract out to people and make money from it without having to spend a lot of money yourself, that's just easy money.
Yeah. True. You make a lot of sense, man. You make a lot of sense. I've been hearing similar things that actually, when we think about all these buyouts from companies nobody knows, everyone's mind goes to like a Tencent, or something. But Embracer seems to be treating their acquisitions, the companies, very well. I haven't heard any complaints so far about Embracer as like the mother company. So yeah, we shall see what the game will be. Let me read briefly a statement that was published. The new Tomb Raider will include all the elements that have made Tomb Raider one of the most referred franchises in gaming, giving players control of the confident and multidimensional hero Lara Croft in an environment that rewards exploration and creative pathfinding, with mind-bending puzzles to solve and a wide variety of enemies to face and overcome. The new entry will be a single-player narrative-driven adventure that continues Lara Croft's story from the previous games. So it will be a direct sequel to the previous games. And it sounds like, it's gonna be a new Tomb Raider, and it's been a while. So I'm looking forward to see it. Dutch, when do you think we will see it?
When will we see it? God, we know it's been in development for a while, which is good. Crystal Dynamics are very efficient, but they have got a lot of their team subcontracted out at the moment.
They were also working on Perfect Dark here, yeah.
Yeah, I'm thinking 24, maybe it's the latter part of 24, and I don't think it's that far away. I think they have been working on it for a while. I think, like a lot of the games, and we spoke about this yesterday with regards to Unreal Engine 5, I think a lot of the games are getting used to all the new tools available to them and figuring out how to work with them and how to work with Nanite and getting it running and performing correctly. It's going to look tremendous. I mean, if you have a look at the previous Shadow of the Tomb Raider and all of those, they looked absolutely phenomenal. Performed extremely well. So I've got no doubt the game will look and perform very well. It's a case, of course, as always with Crystal D and Tomb Raider, is how good's the story. So we shall see. Fingers crossed, it's awesome. But I think latter half of 24, maybe it's the tail end of 24.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. It's at least a year and a half out before we see it, and then another half a year or year until it releases, man. Again, I need to shout out John TJ for generous super chat. He sends in $2 and says, "Have Microsoft buy you, lol." Yeah, man. They can. They have my email. They just need to come to the table. I'm open for discussions here. But I gotta bring Dutch with me. We only come as a team. Oh, man. Okay. Dutch, I know it's your favorite topic, but it is something that keeps the gaming industry on its toes. Like every week, stuff happens, and that's the Activision Blizzard acquisition. Yay! The thing is, I think we all agree we want this deal to be over, but but in reality, it will keep us on our toes for at least another 6 months or so before this is gonna be done. But today, something happened. The two largest unions in the United States have supported the Activision Blizzard King merger. The AFL-CIO with 12 million members and the CWA with 800,000 members have openly supported the Activision Blizzard acquisition. So, do you think this will have an impact on regulators? That unions come out and say basically, listen, this is good for the workforce at ABK?
You know what it is, I think, and the unions can see what we can see, is the fact that the workers, I mean, you couldn't get worse. The workers...
True that.
You couldn't get worse. The workers have been through an absolute torrid time under the current leadership, and the only way to fix that problem is to get rid of the owners and bring in new owners. And of course, that's technically what is happening. They are getting new owners, which means there will be leadership, and there will be a massive leadership shake-up when this is complete. I don't think the CMA or the EU regulators will won't have taken this into account already. I think they're pretty level-headed on that front. I think they know what's in balance, and for all their posturing, I believe that they will just pass this deal. The FTC, on the other hand, are showboating. They're not really showboating. They've just came out with a stance, and this isn't just Microsoft, just in general. Their stance is sue first, ask questions later. As opposed to go to litigation. So, and again, it's not just Microsoft; it's a multitude of companies. We're talking six failed blocks out of the last six deals they've taken to court. So, of all six that they've objected to, all six of those have failed in court and have actually been put through. So, so it doesn't make for good reading for Lena Khan. And the unions over in America for the workers' rights are absolutely furious with them, and they're saying, listen, like, you're meant to be there ultimately for the workers and the consumers, and the only way you're going to get better products for the consumers is if the workers are in a great environment. And that is first and foremost. If the workers aren't in a great environment, no matter what you're doing or what it affects the market, you're not going to get a good end product, because the workers are going to be like, it's only going to go downhill.
Yep.
So you have to protect workers first. And ultimately, if those workers are happy, you're going to get great products, which means ultimately the consumers are going to be happier because they've got better products because of their happiness.
Yeah.
Should we say? So it's, yeah, the FTC, they don't, and this is the unfortunate thing, but they don't have a track record of objecting and having statistical proofs to back up their objections. So I think the CMA and the EU ultimately already know the benefits for the workers. I don't think either of them will object. They might have some concerns initially, but I don't think any of those concerns revolve around staff issues. I think they know Microsoft ultimately at the end of the day have had their issues, but on recent years have been voted like in the top 5 best places to work in the world. And obviously that's no mean feat. That's stuff that's by the staff. That isn't by anybody else. That's via things like Glassdoor and staff questionnaires and things like that have put them in that place. So the staff are obviously happy. They've done a lot of work to get to that place. So yeah, ultimately I think it will work in Microsoft's favor. I think if this goes to any form of mediator in America or court, we've said this before, but you have to back up your reasoning with statistical facts. And if they've got no statistical facts to back up their claims, then it's going to get immediately just discarded.
Yeah.
And I think, and ultimately it will happen. It will get discarded because across the board, no matter what blocking thing you're looking at or what reasoning you can think of, whether it's anti-consumer, well, it's not, because you're going to end up with cheaper games. You're going to end up with the games in more places than they are currently. You've been guaranteed the games will be on Nintendo Switch, they will be on Steam, they will be on PlayStation. They've already offered those contracts. 2 of those companies have already signed those contracts for 10 years minimum.
Yeah.
So in terms of like talking about even the cloud aspect, if somebody had an issue with cloud, they can ultimately say, well, listen, you've already got contracts signed with us to use as your servers. So if you've got such an issue with cloud, why do you have our servers? Why did you sign the contract with us to use our servers? Ultimately, no matter which route you go down, Microsoft have provided remedies off their own backs without the request for remedies. And I think ultimately when the unions come out and start saying, listen, there is absolutely no reason to be blocking this deal for the sake of the staff and the consumer, accept it.
Yeah.
Just get it done. I think the
Yeah, I
FTC is the
agree.
only one that's going to be the sticking point. I don't think the other regulators are going to have an issue ultimately.
Yeah, I think so too. Either when the CMA finally gives in or the FTC, I think the other ones will just follow suit there. I'm gonna pick up on some of your points. I want to catch up on one super chat before I miss it. And that comes in from Painful Discourse. Thank you, man, for the support. He sends in 10 Polish zloty and says, not all sunshine and rainbows. Embracer closed Onoma. You got a point there, man. I did not think about that. You're right. They closed Onoma. That was Eidos Montreal previously, or something. Square Enix Montreal. The Montreal part, and they shut that down. That is true. For I think at the time they said like business reasons or something. So yeah, of course, Embracer is an investment group. They want to protect their investment. They want to, get a return on their investment. So yeah, I agree. It's not all rain and sunshine. But what I meant is that I have not heard that they really treat their staff or their studios in a bad way per se. So yeah, good stuff. Jay in the chat says, why does Boxenberger look so sharp all of a sudden? Yeah, man, you want me to talk about this the entire show? I'm still a little proud, Dutch. I'm still a little proud that the world of gaming is now such a high quality stream, man. Such a high quality stream. Hertog Quinn says it's the remastered Boxenberger. Yeah.
It's the remake of the remaster. Yep.
There you go. But seriously, we are always trying to improve the quality of the stream. The show, the things we do, and we do that because we love the community, and the community shows us so much support. So we try to do our best to entertain you as good as possible. Yeah, Dutch, you brought up a lot of points about the unions and their impact on the regulators. I feel if you look at this holistically, and that's is what the regulators should do. From a consumer perspective, from an industry perspective, and of course from like the people affected by the acquisition. And one big group affected by that is not us as gamers; it's the actual workforce and the staff that are working there. That's why you have seen like the head of legal at Activision Blizzard King. I forgot her name. Lulu something. She came out and said, "We are ready to fight this because it's good for our staff. It will be good." So yeah, I mean, the thing is, when we look at FTC, CMA, and even the EU, we are all wondering why they have objections at all, why they go into. I understood that they went into what they called the phase 2 investigation simply because of the scope and size of the deal. But to go as far as like now the FTC actually trying to sue Microsoft is just ridiculous if you think about it. It doesn't hurt consumers. It doesn't hurt staff, obviously.
I mean, the only light on this one that I would say is on the finer details of this sue. It's not a full block. So they're suing to block, but they're actually not. They're not going to the Supreme Court. They're suing to block, but going to administrative.
Yeah. Only if it fails
that,
there, then they go to Supreme Court. That's the last resort.
Yeah. Ultimately, in the meantime, Microsoft and Activision Blizzard, as long as they get regulatory approval from the other regulators, CMA, EU, and etc., they could technically close this deal without anything to do with the FTC anyway, knowing really that if it did go to court, we're going to win this ultimately. Like, no other market in the world has blocked this deal.
Yeah.
If it goes to Supreme Court, they're not going to block this deal. So, like, it goes to that. They don't really have a concern. They can close the deal next year, even with this going on. It's only administrative, which means that it's really not going to get that far.
True. I agree. I think it will only stall. It will not prevent the acquisition.
Yeah.
So yeah, what I did notice is that Microsoft is getting a lot more like, I don't know what's the right wording for it, aggressive publicly. I want to say Phil Spencer went on to a podcast this week, the Second Request podcast, and he said the following thing about this. Sony is trying to protect its dominance on the consoles. The way they grow is by making Xbox smaller. Sony has very different views of the industry than we do. They don't ship their games day and date on PC. They do not put their games into their subscription service when they launch their games. So, especially the statement about Sony wants to grow by making Xbox smaller, I find that for a public statement from Phil, like, okay, gloves are off. Gloves.
Yeah.
So, what do you think? How will the relationship be? Well, not just the next 6 months or so until this deal is gonna close, and I think we all agree it will eventually close.
Yeah,
but
I think you know what it is. I think ultimately the relation. I think Microsoft, as much as they're being pretty aggressive now, I think they're just frustrated with the way that Sony are behaving. It's like like spoiled brats, basically.
Yes,
like they want their cake and eating it. That is essentially the way Sony want it. They want everything, and they only want it the way they want it. They do not want to move with the way that the industry is moving. They want to stick in their old ways and not budge from that way. Ultimately, they've been forced to. I think they've been forced to go down the PC route. I think they've been forced to look into live service games.
Yes.
I think the choices that they're having to make aren't choices that they've wanted to make, but they're being forced to because that's where the industry is moving. they've seen, unfortunately for them, and this is where they hate it, they've seen the benefits of why their games should be on PC and how much of a financial increase that's presided to them. So they've kind of got that. They've seen how well their games are doing, and they go and begrudgingly, yeah, it's doing well. We're going to have to put more games on PC. And then we've seen at the Game Awards, okay, Last of Us Part 1 remake is going on to PC like 2023. That's the quickest I've seen a game that has just been released be announced to go on to PC. Like that game has literally been out like 2 months, if that.
I think so. Yeah, September. I think it came out in September. Yeah,
and now it's already announced to go to PC. That is quick. Like for PlayStation, that's super quick. And now we've got Returnal as well. Of course, that's a little bit longer, but of course you can see it slowly churning. And I think next year we're going to see that gap shortening it to like 6 months. I think we'll get halfway through the year and we'll get God of War Ragnarok announced for PC, and we'll get Spider-Man Miles. Well, we've got Spider-Man Miles Morales, but I think we'll get the announcement not long after Spider-Man 2 when that's released next year. That will have that game within the first 6 months of 2024 on PC. So I think what we'll tend to see, because they'll get burnt by a few of the live service projects.
Yeah,
but it happens. Live service projects are literally hit or miss. You will either do an amazing job and it will fly off the shelves, or it will miss significantly and it's dead in the water, and there's nothing you can do to revive it. There have been a few instances where they've had to literally just plow money into it to get it back up and running. We've seen that with Elder Scrolls Online. That game released in such poor shape. We've seen that with Fallout 76. Again, really poor shape. But ZeniMax Online, on both occasions, did plow money into these games. They got them into where they needed to be, and now they are really doing well. Like Fallout 76 is probably doing a lot better than most people anticipated by this stage, and they've got so much content in it now. Elder Scrolls Online is still to this day really good. Like there's an unbelievable amount of content in that game now, and it is doing very well. But do Sony have the patience to look after a live service game like that?
You bring up a great point. Because we have seen games like Days Gone that objectively performed really well. Like 6-7 million copies sold, which is, in my book, is a success, right?
For a new IP, it's
a new
really
IP. Very good. But they have not been happy with the performance of that game. And you make a lot of sense. Live service games are tough, man. They are tough because, like you said, a live service game needs that viral effect. Like you need to have a certain community jump in, talk about all the stuff on their socials, at work, at school, wherever, and suddenly those games explode. And if you cannot create that buzz within like the first week or two after launch, you will have a tough time with live service games. And I think Sony's one of their weaknesses is definitely patience with that.
I fully believe if they were in the position that Microsoft were with the likes of Halo and the way Halo launched, Sony would have already binned off that game. They would have binned that game off months ago. They would have said, no, this is not working. This is like, just leave it and move on.
Yeah. They would basically anthem it. Yeah.
Yeah. Microsoft have the patience. They've worked with multiple live service games now. You've seen Sea of Thieves started off as a hollow shell, and now look at it. You've
State of Decay
Grounded started off. State of Decay, exactly the same. Grounded started off the same. Like all of them started off as like bare bones, but they flourished. Grounded is now a really, really cool experience to play with your kids or by yourself, or crafting or story or whatever it is you want to do. Sea of Thieves is the same. State of Decay is unbelievable now. You've got like Horde mode, you've got these next gen enhancements, you've got like completely revamped level of detail and graphical fidelity and HDR and everything that's been put into State of Decay 2. Like they're still supporting that game to this day. I don't think Sony have the patience to deal with it, and this is where we're going to have to wait and see if they do, because ultimately, to thrive or survive in the live service space, you need to be a very patient company. A very patient company. And that's one of the reasons I think Sony are getting very frustrated with things, because they don't want to conform to any of these things. They want to just sit in their roots. And I think another thing that's going to hold them back, Boxy, is they mentioned before they're only interested in mega hits. They're only interested in blockbuster games. You can't hit immediately with a live service game or an MMO. You're never gonna just get a blockbuster MMO or a live service. It's not gonna work that way. There's gonna be a lot of things that need to be improved in a live service game. And as much as you've got Destiny involved, who have done a really great job with Bungie involved, who have done a really good job with Destiny.
Yeah,
They are also not the kings of live service. Like, there's still a lot of improvements that they could make, and if they're not doing a Destiny and it's an entirely different thing that they're helping them with, like an action adventure game, like an Elder Scrolls or something like that, like, it's an entirely different ball game. Like, not all live service games run the same. You can get an idea as to what you do for content. Okay, how quickly do we need to release content? What kind of content do we need to release? But in terms of the adventures you go on and the missions you go on,
the stuff the community is excited about, that's different with every game, and sometimes hard to plan out, and you gotta be flexible. The live service games,
be willing to put as much money into that live service games as you would potentially get out, and you've got to give gamers a reason to invest in it continuously. Like, we know Elder Scrolls Online, for those who do play it, it is an actual fully fledged MMO, much like Final Fantasy, which means there is a monthly subscription to that to get the experience. Yes, you can play the game up to a certain point, but if you're invested in that game, there's a monthly subscription, which means you've got a die-hard fan base that are paying you monthly to play that game. Sony need to know that they've got to create the content to satisfy paying customers on a monthly residual basis. These aren't people, like, if the game starts to die, you will see that financially, which means you have to invest in it to keep it going. This is the issue that I think is and why Microsoft are being frustrated with Sony now, is because Microsoft is saying, listen, this isn't us that are molding the gaming space. Like, yes, we're pushing subscriptions, but there was already EA Play in there beforehand. There was already Ubisoft in there beforehand. We already had Xbox Live Gold. We already had PlayStation Plus. Nintendo have even jumped on it. We've got Amazon Prime subscription. We've got Apple Arcade. Like, there is subscriptions coming out of our ears right now. We're not the first. We'll not be the last. But what we are doing is refining how subscription should work. We're giving more content to our customers. And whether or not you choose to do that is your prerogative. Whether or not you choose to financially support that is also your prerogative, as the same as every live service. Sony don't like that. Sony wants to be in their old ways, which is why they're being frustrated. And I think ultimately, at the end of the day, the relationships won't be strained between Microsoft and Sony at the end of it. I think Microsoft will just say, listen, once this is done, like bridges under the water, we're just going to get on with our plan once it's all prepared. But I think the strained relationships will come between Sony and other developers. I think the way other developers are now seeing,
especially
the way
other
Sony
publishers, like an EA, Ubisoft, Warner Brothers, those kind of type of relationships. I agree.
I think it'll be really strained between them, because they'll look at the way Sony are going on right now, and they'll be like, "What are they doing? Like, why are they behaving in this way? Like, this is both unprofessional as a company." Of course, naturally, they want to defend their product, but there's a certain line that you cross. And when you start slandering certain things, like they slandered Nintendo for absolutely no reason. They were like, "Oh no, it's just a child's platform. Like, nobody but children play that console." Like, it's a and Nintendo literally published their statistics that showed the average median age of gamers on Nintendo are between 25 and 35. It's not a children's platform anymore. It was, but the vast majority of their gamers are adults now.
absolutely.
Which is why they're saying absolutely give us the Call of Duty IP, because it's been a long time and our median age range is so much higher.
Yeah. I agree,
So yeah,
man.
ultimately, I think it's going to be not Microsoft that kicks up a fuss. I think at the end of it, other publishers are going to look at Sony and go, "Do we really want to have these deals with you? Do we? Is it worth it?"
Yeah. Maybe even a Square Enix is gonna rethink the ways of how they wanted to do businesses. I agree, man. I agree. I don't think they will do themselves a favor in the way how they put themselves out in the public at the moment. So, yeah, man, it will keep us. It will keep being a discussion point for a long time. But I want to move on to something that happened last week, and that was obviously the Game Awards. The Game Awards were, I think, universally seen as, at least from the announcement point of view, a success. A lot of people enjoyed it. I thought there were some cool announcements, and we will talk about those announcements in a second. Let me just briefly change the gameplay. Let's watch some High on Life. Literally like the first hour, started recording 2 minutes or so into the game. So yeah. The Game Awards. We will talk about some of the announcements in a second, but one thing that didn't happen is Xbox showing up. We all expected Xbox to show something. 2019, they have shown the Xbox Series X. They have announced Hellblade 2 with that fantastic CGI trailer. The year after, they were up on the stage. They have shown a couple of games, the biggest being, of course, Perfect Dark. Was announced on the Game Awards stage. The year later, they have shown Hellblade gameplay for the first time. And the last couple of podcasts, we also speculated what could Xbox show this time, what's not gonna be there. We all thought maybe Hellblade, a release date, maybe a Fable something, maybe a Perfect Dark again, maybe in Exile, I don't know. But we all expected something to come out, and they didn't show. They didn't show anything except a couple of advertisements for Game Pass. By the way, with such a weird tagline. They have the tagline, the advertisement tagline, "Good luck, have fun, GLHF." So I don't know why they thought that's a good idea, but anyways, what I want to talk with you about is
down with the kids. Actually, they're hip and down with the kids.
Hip and down with the kids, man. Hip and down with the kids. It's like, you know, when you play Age of Empires 4, like me, and you're waiting in the lobby, everyone, and you're being match made, and then you have your opponent, and everyone is checking out the stats from the other guy, and like literally before every match, everyone is typing into the chat GLHF. That's what you do. Yeah, that's GLHF, but it's not for advertising Game Pass. But anyway, after the show, Aaron Greenberg came out and said on Twitter, "We have a lot planned to show and share about an incredible, exciting year ahead for 2023. Appreciate folks are eager to learn and see more. Timing is always key, but don't worry, you will not have to wait too long for what's next from us." So obviously people started discussing, is Xbox gonna have like a showcase in maybe January? Even the bigger outlets started writing articles about this rumor. There might be something for Xbox in January. So, Dutch, what do you think? You have seen this. Is Xbox going to have something? Does it make sense to have something? And what do you think is gonna happen?
Yeah, ultimately, I think they will have some. I don't know whether it'll be January, maybe it's February, but I think they will have something, and the reason I say that is because they haven't actually given any release dates for any of these games that are coming out in the first
that's
half.
weird, right? Like they have like such, and we're gonna have. By the way, let's start advertising something next week. We're gonna have the last show before Christmas, of course. Probably not the last show of the year, because we said maybe we do a little show in between Christmas and New Year's, but definitely before Christmas we're gonna have a
both
show.
Off, so why not?
Why not? Yeah, why not? Yeah. So we're gonna have a special episode, because there's probably not gonna be much news over the next week. So I have invited a very special guest. He asked me not to name him yet, because he's only like 90% in. There's still something private happening, or that could happen. So not gonna say who, but we're gonna have hopefully a very, very special guest next week, and we're gonna have an Xbox in 2022 and Xbox in 2023 and beyond show, talking about all the things. And you're absolutely right, man. When we look at that packed first 6 months, like not just the first party games, also like the little indie games, like The Last Case of Benedict Fox, Hollow Knight 2, all these smaller titles, like the bigger second party deals like Wolong, like Stalker 2, we still don't have dates for those games. It's crazy. So yeah, please continue, man.
Yeah, so I think ultimately the show that they're going to have in January, February I don't think it'll be as big as people are expecting, but I think we'll see more gameplay for Redfall with a release date, more gameplay for Forza with a release date, more gameplay for Starfield with a release date, and then potentially an announcement that we didn't expect, plus some indie stuff. So I think we're going to get a lot of the release. I think it's going to be more of a kind of a summary show, should we say, but eventually give everybody the release dates of everything that we're expecting in the first half, like actual solid. This is when you're getting the game. Plus, he has some awesome Game Pass announcements to go along with these games in the meantime. I think we're going to get kind of more of a little roundup show. I don't think it's going to be like an E3. It's going to be more like a mini EXO, not like a big full-fledged EXO show, but more like a streamed version of it. Okay, this is like, we've got some awesome announcements, like Redfall coming March 1st, 2023. It could be like something as soon as that. Forza's coming in April and such, and give like solid release dates.
Yeah.
I think that's ultimately the kind of show we're going to get. Plus, maybe a little cool couple of announcements that tied over until the middle of the year, and that's when they're going to have the big one.
Of course, E3. Yeah. I think that you're right. E3, and I think who said it in chat? Siki said it also in chat. E3 will still be the flagship show. Yeah, so I think so too. That will be the big one.
Yeah,
we have been asking Xbox for like a Nintendo Direct format, or like a State of Play format, 20-30 minute shows during the year. Yeah, like I would appreciate them doing such a show, 30-minute show, like every 3 months or so. It doesn't have to be with, like the big stage on E3 or something like that. But just give a little update on what's coming in the next 3 months, show a little gameplay for some of the games that are coming in the next 3 months, that kind of show.
Well, so yeah, if you have a look at not even just Nintendo Direct, but even Sony, when they do state of plays for games that are upcoming, it's usually like within 3 months of the release, they'll do a state of play and say, here's a look at the gameplay, here's a look at some of the features, here's a look at photo mode.
Yeah, like, exactly.
Get you excited for the game, and then it's like, okay, this game's in 3 months, sweet, okay, then we've got something. I think doing them kinds of little shows where they're just like, okay, like the next game up is Redfall, it's releasing on this date.
And then let the developers talk over a little bit. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, we've got an Xbox Direct, and we're going to deep dive into Redfall, the gameplay, its features, so you can kind of get to know the game a little bit before it comes out.
Yeah,
and then you do the same for the next big release and the next big release. I think those little bite-sized chunks, if they're like 20 minutes long, go a long way in getting the hype levels increased, because when you've got this gap where you've just got a release date and then you see nothing about it until it's released, like the hype levels aren't really there, because Like, people are just trying to create their own hype. Like with Starfield, people are like, I'm super hyped for a Starfield. However,
I have to jump in here real quick because that is the thing with this entire show. I've seen many podcasts talk about this, and we do it as well. They have, like I said, big articles on all the media sites. Is there an Xbox Showcase rumors, stuff like that. We are already hyping us up for basically nothing that has been announced. We always do that with Xbox, yeah. And then we are disappointed when they do not deliver something that they haven't even promised to do, yeah. So, but I get the frustration and I get the wish. I'm frustrated too that we have not seen anything at the Game Awards. I think it's a missed opportunity. I've said it before the Game Awards that the difference in between like an E3 showcase and the Game Awards is the Xbox showcase that we had in June was for Xbox fans, was for the fans that have already invested in the ecosystem, that want to know about what's coming. The chance on the big stage at the Game Awards is that you talk to a much broader audience, like people that play mainly mobile watch that, Sony guys, Nintendo guys, PC players. They all watch that show. It's a much wider audience, and you can really bring people into your ecosystem when you are on that stage. I still think it's a missed opportunity, but I also do hope that that our hype that we are already generating just by talking about this. Yeah, we are already, oh yeah, man, Xbox should do that. And then we get like excited because we feel like they should do that. But we know that they should have done that like this year and last year. It's nothing new. We have asked Xbox to do like a direct format for years now, and they have not done it. Yeah, and what what Aaron Greenberg tweeted could also hint at just like a blog post coming, Xbox Wire articles. Yeah, we have no idea. So this time I'm gonna say temper expectations. If we get a showcase, it will be awesome. Yeah. I would love that. It would be the absolute right move. Like you said, they should do that in front of every major release, and also include some of the smaller releases in those shows. Yeah, because in theory, Xbox should have a pipeline bursting with games. We also know that some of the games will get delayed from the first half into the second half, or even further. Yeah, we don't know, but we all assume that there will be some of these games getting a delay. So, yeah, would it be the right move? Absolutely. Absolutely. Xbox needs that. They need that buzz around the brand after not having a first-party game in more than a year. Yeah. Or major first-party game. Pentiment, obviously. But you know what I mean. The thing is, will they? Will they? Because marketing, it hasn't been the strong suit of Xbox. What do you think?
Oh, absolutely not. No, they're terrible at marketing. It's terrible. There's no two ways about it. Like, the guys on social media do what they can, but ultimately, it's not just social media you need to worry about. Like, we're talking about public marketing, and Microsoft are pretty much nowhere to be seen. Like, when the Sony game releases, you know about it. It is everywhere. It's on every bus. It's on every bus stop. It's all over the cinema. It's all over the TV. It's
everywhere. Even internet commercials. Like, when God of War came out, every website I visited was full with God of War advertisements. Obviously, Google knows I love video games, so it's not a surprise that they show me video game ads. But when Halo came out, I did not see anything. When Forza Horizon came out, I did not see anything.
Yeah, and ultimately, the only time we've seen adverts or a form of advertisement from Microsoft was when they didn't show up to something, and that was the Game Awards. And you had a Samsung ad for Game Pass, and then a Game Pass ad for Samsung, and then another Game Pass ad, and more Game Pass ads, and then that was it.
Yeah,
that was it. That was the advertisement for the year. But no, they need to do better. It's and I don't just mean like in general advertisement. I mean like what Sony do. When they've got a big game coming up, you make people know that game's coming out. you've got to slap that thing on every train you can come across, all the buses, the bus stops,
even when
public
they
transport.
have the marketing rights for a third party game, they make it look like it's an exclusive.
Yeah.
Um,
Absolutely. I mean, this is the thing. Like, people don't really take advantage of Xbox. Don't take advantage of the public transport or public spaces, but they have to realize, like, as much as people, a vast majority of people are driving to work or driving X, Y, and Z. They're not the people that you're trying to hit with these public advertisements, because they're not the people that see them. There is a vast majority of people get on or go to regular commutes in big cities that don't use cars. There's no reason to. In the likes of New York City, for instance, like, the vast majority of people probably do not drive in and out of work in New York City because it's not logistically viable. Like, to go from A to B in New York City would take you longer just to get the train or the tram or the bus or whatever it is. And likewise in London, like, it is pointless using a car in central London. Like, it is just too busy. You don't get anywhere. So advertisements anywhere there, you're not going to see. So use that on the sides of buses where there's people constantly on the sidewalks. Use it on metros where people are waiting for trains, or on the sides of trains. When Spider-Man released, entire trains were red with Spider-Man slinging on the side of it and things like that. You don't see
sport
any
events.
of that.
We have the World Cup. Yeah, we have the World Cup, soccer World Cup at the moment. Football World Cup. True football.
Yeah.
Right now, use those events to just generate brand awareness. I sometimes have the feeling, I don't know about how it is in the UK, but here in Germany, I do have the feeling people do not know what an Xbox is.
The funny thing is Xbox are the partnered gaming platform for the England football team. And there was no advertisements at all on TV during, they are the partnered for the England team. They were the partnered company. The only advertisements I saw for Xbox in England during the World Cup were on Twitter.
Yeah.
That's it. Nowhere else. None of the TV channels, even though that was their scheduled partner.
So
nothing.
Yeah, I think we aligned that Xbox needs to improve their marketing, and having at least like these direct events where you generate buzz on socials and everything is important. And besides that, we need the release dates, man.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think their social teams do as much as they can do, but I think just the general marketing isn't there, and that's what's letting them down. I think the social guys, they've got a lot of people and they've got a lot of influencers and things like that that are doing as much as they physically can to get the word out digitally.
Yeah.
But when you're talking about physically in public, on the TV, on even radios or sides of buildings and things, they're non-existent. Like, social media, as much as people are on it, the vast majority of the time you see an ad, you scroll past. You don't stop. I'd never stop for ads. I'd try to block all the. If I see a company that I don't want to look at, I'll just block them so I don't have to see their advertisements anymore. And a lot of people do that. Like, a lot of people just go, I don't want to see that, block it. And then they never see your stuff again. That's because. So you have to make the most of public advertisement spaces. And there's so many of them. So many. And it's not that expensive. It really isn't. If we can put it this way, if we can have like dental companies putting advertisements up on the sides of buses, then the second richest or first richest company in the world can definitely afford advertisement rights on the sides of buses. There's a lot of small companies that do it. You're muted still. Muted.
Yeah, I agree, man. And what you generate is brand awareness. And I feel like, especially across Europe, where PlayStation has been so absolutely dominant, like outselling the Xbox 5-1 last gen. Yeah. I really have the feeling that sometimes when you talk to like more casual gamers, they don't even know what Xbox is, and that definitely needs to change. Yeah, even if they have now the games, and they will have the games with Starfield and Redfall and all the exciting other stuff that comes out. Yeah, but you need to tell people that you have that, otherwise it doesn't help you. So yeah, man, Xbox showcase in January. I think everyone agrees we all want it. Will we get it though? Not sure.
I think I was going to say I think they would. I think they'll do something for the release dates of these games. They're going to have to.
They have to announce, and I would be surprised if they just would nilly-willy drop them in an Xbox Wire article or via a tweet from Aaron Greenberg or something. I don't know. It would be weird to do it that way. But who knows? Let me shout out Drawn TJ, who sends in $2 super chat. Thank you, man. And he says the World Cup is boring to me. Yeah, I know that football is not the most popular sport in the
Same
US.
with the Super Bowl, though. Like, they need to make the most of the Super Bowl, and they don't do that.
Yeah, true.
Or
That's
NHL
true.
for that matter, or any of the major sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hockey, handball, all these things, and not just in the US, man. Not just in the US. When I visited the US for the first time, it was during the OG Xbox era. I was truly surprised. You know, I stepped out at New York airport, and then I saw a billboard with an Xbox. I will never forget that, because I have not seen anything like that to this day here in Germany. That's just what it is, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, man. Let's move on from the Xbox showcase and marketing. Yes. And we will talk about the Fable thing in a second. But since we have been on the topic of the Game Awards, let me read some of the highlights that have been announced. Yeah, so Street Fighter 6.
Awesome titles announced.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Street Fighter 6 release date for June. Then we have Hades 2. That's gonna be awesome, man. That's gonna be awesome.
I'm looking forward to Street Fighter 6 as a birthday month game for me, so super happy with that.
Yeah. People in chat, let us know what have been your highlights. What were your highlights? We definitely want to know that. So BioShock creator Ken Levine announced his latest game, Judas. That game looked really interesting. So Kevin Conroy is gonna be playing Batman in the Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League game. I love to hear that. Bayonetta prequel has been announced. Star Wars Jedi Survivor getting a March release.
I wanted to touch on that Bayonetta one, actually, because that Bayonetta one looked really interesting to me. Like, I'm not a big fan of Bayonetta, the prequel.
The Bayonetta, yeah.
I liked that style. Like, it's entirely different from Bayonetta or what they're used to doing. And that looked really interesting. Like, game, actually, I thought it looked really cool.
Yeah, it did, definitely. So Death Stranding 2 has been confirmed. I fell asleep a little bit before finishing reading the title, but
I was going to say, believe it or not, I thought that looked far more interesting than Death Stranding 1.
I just saw Death Stranding 2 and I was already like snoozing off. It's just not for me, but glad that people like it. Then we have the new Nightingale trailer. Whenever I see that game, it looks just fantastic. But I do hope it will come to console. It has only been announced for PC yet. Tekken 8 gameplay has been shown. Horizon Forbidden West, Burning Shores. The DLC has been announced. Diablo 4.
Only.
Yeah, true. Diablo 4's release date has officially been confirmed for June. Oof. Gonna book in a few days there, man. Crash Team Rumble has announced a Crash Bandicoot game, which is a team versus team kind of game. Then we have Company of a Hero 3 is coming to PS5 and Xbox. Then we have From Software officially announced Armored Core 6.
Nice.
Yeah.
Look forward to that.
Yeah. Final Fantasy 16 release date has been confirmed. The Cyberpunk, the Phantom Liberty DLC has been shown. Then we have
Zelda. Big star.
True. And the new Transformer game, Reactivate, is a new co-op action game from Splash Damage, which has also been shown.
Space Marine 2 looks phenomenal, by the way.
It does. It absolutely does. So yeah, man, I think overall the Game Awards, as I really do not care about the awards at all. I always just watch the trailers. But I thought like that was a solid showing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Overall, from a gamer, thankfully we look out for Xbox and we want Xbox to turn up and show something because they've been super quiet this year. But even outside of that, thankfully we both have access to PlayStation consoles. We both have access to Nintendo and PC. So from an actual overall gamer perspective, there was a lot there.
There was definitely
a lot of awesome announcements. There was a lot of things that I didn't expect to look interesting that I was very interested in. So the Hellboy game looks really cool. The comic style version of Hellboy looks really interesting. That's
Indeed.
one straight on my watch list. Overall, I was quite happy with it. There was very, very few adverts. The only adverts I actually did notice was the Game Pass and Samsung ones. I don't think I noticed anything else other than that, to be honest. I think it was it felt a little bit more streamlined. I think the actual setup of the show was a lot more streamlined.
Yeah. That was good stuff, man. Good stuff. Drawn TJ sends in another $2 and says it's his birthday next Tuesday.
Well, happy birthday for next Tuesday.
Oh yeah, I have to book it in. Sweet. Thank you, man, for the support. So yeah, what have people in the chat? What did they like? I see a lot of mentioning of Final Fantasy 16. Mr. Turner Dark says he cannot wait for Stalker 2. But that Atomic Heart, Suicide Squad, Dead Space, Final Fantasy 16, and Spider-Man. But most of them have not been shown at the Game Awards, man. Most of them. Replaced is another game that looks incredible. Yes. That was.
Yeah, can't wait for that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Dustin Lambert says Breath of the Wild 2 is 100% going to win GOTY next year. I agree. That will definitely be a runner-up there.
It depends how well Starfield hits.
Starfield is definitely.
Yeah, if Starfield hits as big as a Skyrim hits. The thing is with Bethesda games is when they've released big hits, they've won Game of the Year.
That's true. That is true.
It doesn't happen often, and it takes them a long time to release them. But when they've released mainline titles, we're not talking about like MMOs. We're not talking about them. We're talking mainline titles. If you have a look at Skyrim, it won Game of the Year. If you have, I think actually, was it Oblivion or was it the one before that? That one Game of the Year.
Morrowind.
Yeah. Fallout won Game of the Year.
Yeah, that's true. On the other hand, we all know how the process goes. It's so weird. I'm not sure.
I think he's right though. I think it's going to be between Starfield and Breath of the Wild next year. Absolutely. Yeah, it's 100%. It's going to be between those two. I don't know if there's something else that could. Obviously, there could be some games that release that we're not expecting that paper to the post. Like Hogwarts could be just phenomenal, and
it could be Stalker 2.
Stalker could. Yeah,
be absolute.
Something could just completely take us by surprise and smash
we
it.
all
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, we all want like Hellblade coming next year. That could be.
Yeah.
So yeah, we shall see, man. We shall see. Good stuff here, man. I want to briefly talk about Jedi Survivor, which was announced because I noticed something interesting. They have announced along with the release date in March, which is relatively soon, man, like 3 months from now. They have announced the minimum specs for PC and the recommended specs for PC. And why do I bring that up? I know most of us here in the community are console gamers, but we have seen in previous games the discourse around, suddenly games run at 30 FPS. Gotham Knights, for instance, which ran at significantly weaker hardware on PC at 60. So what are we looking at here? The minimum specs for Jedi Survivor is like a 1070 and 8 gigabytes of RAM. No SSD required. So that's the minimum specs. And now it comes to recommended specs. Is 16 gigabytes of RAM and an RTX 2070. No SSD required. So the RTX 2070 is, in my book, in the ballpark of the Series X. I would say like the Series X GPU is like more like the 2070 Ti. So, but in that ballpark for the recommended specs, which would allow you to run the game at 1440p 60 FPS on ultra settings. So, what do you think? Will Jedi Survivor, which looks phenomenal, the trailer. Well, I cannot wait for that game. The first one was my game of the year that year. Pardon me. I absolutely loved it. But will we see this perform and run well on consoles? From the recommended specs of the PC, the Series X and the PS5 should absolutely be able to match that. So, but will we? And will we?
Is it running on? It's running on.
It's running on Unreal 5.
It's going to run better on console than it is on PC at launch.
You think?
Absolutely. Every game that's released on Unreal.
Care to elaborate?
This last few months has had specifically an NVIDIA hitching issue on release that's caused significant performance issues, and we've had this very recently. What game was it that released very recently? That was on PC and consoles. It was oh god, what was it?
So we had Gotham Knights, we had a Plague Tale, we had Evil West, we had.
No, it wasn't Evil West. It was only the other week.
Only the other week.
Yeah.
Callisto Protocol?
Callisto. Yes, thank you. I don't think it was just Callisto, but Callisto was one of them. They have an issue, and it is down to an issue with NVIDIA drivers, but also with Unreal, that causes some hitching issues and some performance problems.
Yeah.
And it's a sustained issue. It's not just one game; it's several games, and it's an NVIDIA problem. But it's causing kind of a side effect on the performance across the board, and it needs patched. So the games on console are often far more stable and run better and look better on day one, specifically on day one, than they do on PC, and it takes a bit for the PC ones to actually perform better. But ultimately, I think these bottom line specs that we've got here, I think are giving a bit of a boost to console gamers. I think both PlayStation 5 and Series X versions of this game are going to look and run phenomenally. I think we're going to get 4K 60. And I think we're going to get possibly, even if they do have ray tracing in there, then we're going to have a quality mode that will be with ray tracing.
Yeah.
Which will be possibly 30, which people will hate,
probably.
But we'll get it.
We'll get it. I wonder if these modes are actually played, or if developers just put them in there so that they can say they have an option in there.
I do, because I'm a graphics fiend, so really? I don't like. I can cope with the 30. I can cope only on single player. If you're talking multiplayer games, it's always performance mode because you need the quick reactions.
Yeah, of course.
So your shooters and your racing games and things like that, they're all stuck on performance mode.
So you're telling me you would play The Witcher at 30 FPS in ray tracing mode rather than in 60 FPS?
for a single player experience. Yeah, I know people love the combat and things like that, but when it's not detrimental to how I'm fighting a person and it's just an AI character, I don't mind that 30. If Witcher was an online game where I had to fight somebody else, I would have it on performance mode for 60 to make sure that I was getting the timing down right. But when you're fighting just a random creature or some random AI, like, I don't worry too much about that, and I'd rather the game look ultimately the best it can be, so I can kind of experience kind of how good the graphical fidelity of these games can look, and just enjoy them for it.
Sweet. Okay. Interesting stuff. I would
Yeah,
have not thought
that's
that.
my thing. So specifically when it comes to those modes, for me, it's as if there's a performance mode or a graphical mode, it depends solely on the type of game. If it's a single player experience, and I don't have to worry about quick reactions and timing and things like that because I don't have a versus, I don't have somebody to kill on the other end of the connection that I need to worry about that's going to have quick reflexes. Then I'll stick it on quality mode. If I am playing a multiplayer game,
Interesting, man. Yeah. Mr. Joanna Dark in the chat asks, what about the CPU in the game? Yeah, I forgot to mention that. The recommended specs only require an Intel Core i5 11600 or Ryzen 5 5600X, which are only 4-core CPUs. So only 4-core CPUs. Yeah, we have like 8-core CPUs in our consoles. So, man, I wonder how that will perform. It will be interesting. It will be interesting. But, Dutch, let us move on and talk about Fable. We didn't see it at the Game Awards, unfortunately. Yeah, but that's not what we're gonna talk about. There's a rumor coming from Jess Korn, who is a friend of the show and a well-known insider in the community, and he had to say the following: that Fable development reportedly is slow due to Microsoft's insistence on using in-house engines. He's heard that one of the issues Fable has faced was Microsoft's insistence that their games are being developed using the custom in-house engines, where possibly rather than like something like the Unreal Engine or something else. Yeah. So yeah, man, Fable has been quite some time in development. In January 2017, we heard the very first rumor of Fable being handed over to a British studio. In the fall of 2017, Playground Games confirmed that they are working on an action RPG. So the game has been in development for now around about 6 years. Yeah. Dutch, what do you think? We have heard that the game is running on the Forza engine. Obviously an in-house engine and not an engine that is made specifically for third-person action adventures, open world games. What do you think?
What do I think about the engine? I think the engine's perfectly fine, to be honest. But I think if ultimately if developers that they've got from third party teams that are coming in and haven't used the Forza Tech engine before, of course it's going to take transitionary period for them to get used to it. It's the same with any engine. You're going to have to learn it. You're going to have to get used to it. You're going to have to learn kind of the shortcuts and things like that. Yeah, it's going to take a little bit of time. I don't think ultimately it's that much of an issue. I think across the board, if you're getting third party teams in that haven't used it before, then it's going to take a little bit of time for them to get used to the engine and everything that's on offer for them. But I think ultimately they'll get used to it fine. I think it's just a minor stumbling block, but you get this with a lot of teams. Any teams that are using their own proprietary engines that are outside of Unreal. Unreal's kind of universally adapted, so everybody knows how to use it. So naturally, if you're going to be going, okay, well, you're used to working on Unreal, you're a competent developer. Like, we work on Forza Tech, so this is Forza Tech engine. Like, this is how it works. This is how you develop for it. It's going to take them a little bit of time to get used to it. I don't think it's a major issue, to be honest.
Yeah, I think it's probably more what hinders the development, that the studio is basically setting up a complete new team. It's not that the Forza Horizon team is suddenly developing Fable. They founded a complete new team. They hired everyone on that team. They obviously not just make for the first time an action RPG, but they also have a big name here to carry. Fable is beloved by many. I'm a huge Fable fan, and they want to do the IP justice, and we know that they are perfectionists. Look at the Forza Horizon games. They do not release mediocre games. They love that, and I think Fable is gonna blow people away. When you talk about games that will be console or system sellers, I think Fable will be that showcase. Fable Playground has the ambition to become one of the leading developers in the gaming industry. They want to become like, when you talk about those top-notch studios, names like Naughty Dog come up, yeah, or maybe even an Insomniac or so. They want to be on that level. They want to be that studio that not only makes the best racing game series out there, they also want to have or be known as the studio that made Fable great again. And I have the feeling the ambition of the game is really high. Them using the Forza engine, I think they have thought about things like that. When we hire external people, do they know how to use a Forza engine? No. Is the racing game engine the right engine to develop a third-person studio? Come on. Obviously, they have asked themselves this question. That they don't need a podcast like us to to tell them that, to ask themselves the question. They have asked themselves these kind of questions. So I have no doubt that this game is gonna be on a very, very high quality level, and that just takes time. Especially when you build up a studio or a team within the studio from the ground up. It just takes time.
And you can guarantee this game as well. It's going to have, if you have a look at just what the Forza tech engine's capable of, and the level of fidelity and the performance of it. Like, we're talking about the same engine that back on the Xbox One X was the first game to do native 4K 60 frames with Forza 7.
Yeah.
And that's an old Forza tech engine. So if you haven't looked at what's going to be capable with the new one, with all these bells and whistles on, that has been refined multiple times since then. This game is good. Not only is it going to look pretty, but it's going to perform well. So I think ultimately the engine won't be the issue, but the staff will get used to it. And I think once they've got used to that engine, they'll be probably highly surprised at just how versatile it is.
Agree. Yeah, so it is something that they have definitely considered, that it will take, the onboarding of new staff will take longer. When you want to outsource certain things, it will take longer. They definitely have considered that. They have still made the choice to use the in-house engine, and I'm not sure if that choice is made by Microsoft, honestly. Because we have seen so many studios using the Unreal Engine. If Playground would have come out and said, hey, we want to do our game in Unreal, just like an Obsidian, like Undead Labs, like Ninja Theory, like the Coalition, all these studios that use the Unreal Engine, why would Microsoft have said no to Playground? So yeah, definitely. Let me shout out John TJ, who sends in another super chat, $5 this time. Thank you, man. Really appreciate it. Where are the 2022 cars and supercars in Forza? I'm tired of getting old cars. Yeah, it's a good question.
It's got a good point, to be honest. And I haven't played Forza Horizon for a while, to be honest. Now I played it. I played a lot of it when it came out. A lot of it, like to the point where I've pretty much done most I can do in that game without kind of getting bored of it. And I don't want to get myself bored of a game. I want to be able to go back to it when I want to and be just as happy racing in it as I can be. But I also noticed as well that they weren't pushing as much of the new upcoming cars as they could do. Like there wasn't any of the new models or many of the new models.
True.
There wasn't any of the new supercars that are like being announced or anything like that. So yeah,
Man,
I
and we
think they
all
need to
bought
push for
the car pass because we wanted to
Yeah.
play it early access. So everyone's eager to get them. I agree. Yeah, John TJ, you bring up a great point there. Didn't they say that they will share early in 23 what's next for Forza Horizon 5? I feel like we had that news a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, I think that yes, they announced that the next DLC will be at the beginning of 2025. Sorry,
Something.
2023.
Yeah.
Not 25. Jesus,
With
imagine.
the Xbox studios, you never know. You never know. Yeah. Yeah, so we shall see. And that's the thing, you know, them having such an empty 2022. They could have used the second DLC in the fall, in the holiday season now, and also like the car pass and everything, the new cars everyone wants them that everyone wants. You don't need the Forza Horizon 5 DLC in between Forza Motorsport and Starfield. You just don't. You know what I mean? So yeah, but timing is we have discussed this so many times, that timing with the Xbox studios, yeah, you just never know with them. You just never know. Let us move to another topic, and that is Metacritic. Metacritic announced a list of their worst games of the year. I know at the end of the year, everyone is talking about their favorite games and which game wins game of the year, their favorite games in certain genres, and so on. But I thought this was an interesting list of the worst games of 2022. Number 10, Blade Runner. The enhanced edition on the Switch got a 52 on Metacritic. Kamiwasa, Way of the Thief, a PlayStation 4 title, got a 52 on Metacritic. The Waylanders, number 7, number 8, sorry. Number 8 on PC, 51. Now here's one that looked really interesting, I thought, when they've shown it, and kind of sad to see that it performed that bad. On place number 7, The Last Ori Crew. Was this open world action RPG that is set in a mixture of a fantasy and sci-fi setting. I know open world games, indie open world games are ambitious. Absolutely, they are. But yeah, sad to see that it performed that well. Then we have Sorrow, The Chronicles, with a 49 in average. Then we have Arc of Alchemist on the Switch, a 46. We have XEL with a 43. Number 4, Babylon's Fall on the PS5, 41. And here it comes. A game we all had so much hope for. Crossfire.
Did you say 41 for Babylon Fall?
Yeah, 41 in average.
Whoa.
On Metacritic.
Wow.
Number 3, Crossfire X.
40.
With every
39?
38.
Oof.
Yeah,
I know why, though. I absolutely know why.
Yeah, absolutely.
It took
was
far
bad.
too long to get that game work. Like, and it wasn't that it was a poorly performing game or that it didn't look good. the controller for that game was terrible, and it took far too long to set up the controller and configure it to get it to a usable state. And we're not talking about for a shooter like a Call of Duty state, which is the top of the class. We're talking about just being able to play that game competently.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I tried to play the campaign. I had so much hope, like Remedy doing the campaign. I had so much hope. I played this game for, I want to say, an hour or so. And it just felt so bad. It like you said, the controls were so off. You couldn't even concentrate on the story because the controls were so bad. And honestly, that at least in the first hour, the story also wasn't really good. So yeah, I understand why it's in that list.
I said it was like an average, because I played the first story. I didn't go back and play the second one. I still need to, because I actually bought the game. I was one of those that were quite excited for it. And when I seen the price was only like 20 something, I was like, God, that's cheap. I was like, yeah, I'll just pick that up. I'll just pick it up because then I get access to the second part of the campaign, because I know it's 2 sections and you only get the first one.
Right, that was that weird thing where only the first half of the campaign came to Game Pass.
Yeah, so I bought it because it was only 20. It was cheap.
Yeah.
So still to this day, I don't feel too hard done by, because I'm like, okay, if it was 40, 50, 60, I would have really been pissed. But it's not, thankfully, so I'm still not that bothered. And the campaign was okay. It was like what you would class as an average Call of Duty campaign. Like, it was nothing special, but nothing horrific. Ultimately, it fell down to the fact that the controls felt horrible. The first time I tried to play the campaign, I couldn't because of the controls. And then we'd done a lot of researching and tweaking and things like that. And the controls, I got to a point where it was good. It felt okay. And then I was able to play the campaign pretty easily and had a little bit of fun with it. But without those controls configuration, and it took us a good hour and a half, 2 hours finding the right setup, which is far too long. Without that, it wouldn't have been playable, and it still isn't for most people, because they don't want to do that kind of research to figure out how the controls should be set up.
Yeah. Agree. And honestly, I did not really see many people talk positively about that game.
Yeah.
So yeah. Number 2, Postal. Postal 4, no regrets, with an average of 30.
Ouch.
Yeah, so that's it. I'm sorry, that wasn't number 2, that was number 1. I counted the headline, and the headline is not a game. So yeah, honestly, so that's the worst games of the year. What was the worst game you have played? You've actually played? Was it Crossfire?
That's a good question. What the hell have I played this year? That's a good question.
People in chat, I want to know from you as well. Let us know, what are the worst games that you have actually played this year? Yeah.
I've probably played some bad games. I would say, in terms of its performance and its usability, Crossfire is absolutely the worst game I've played this year. As I mentioned there, it shouldn't be that hard to get it into a state where you can actually enjoy playing it. And that's why it got ditched by everybody. The multiplayer was terrible. There was no maps. There was no real customization. The updates were few and far between. It's probably been updated countless times now, and it might be good going back to see how good it's updated and whether or not it's actually in it. That could be a good little thing, actually, for us to do there on my few weeks off. See if it's in a state now where it's good looking at it compared to its release. But no game should release at the point where the controls are that insensitive that it feels like you're just using a sponge to play a shooter. You're muted, by the way. Muted.
Oh yeah. You're absolutely right, man. Dustin Lambert says he played Loot River. That game sucked so hard. Yeah, I have not played it, but it doesn't sound like I missed out.
You know what I was disappointed with as well? Deathloop.
Hmm.
I know and people loved that game and the press loved that game, but
Yeah.
wasn't worth the wait.
So
Personally, I expected better.
that's true.
Scorn.
Yeah, I fell off. I wanted Scorn. I wanted to say that I could not get into that game. Well, it
I think it
wasn't
was
for
ultimately. I
me.
think people
It's
expected a bit more for it. It was a cool puzzle game. It had great atmosphere and a great art style, but lacked substance.
yeah. I don't know. It was just so. I was a little lost. Didn't feel really comfortable with the art style. I don't know. I just deleted it after an hour or so. So I would put
Yeah.
that definitely on the list. Mr. Joy in the Dark says his worst game, the worst games he played were Crossfire X, Valkyrie Elysium, the demo, and the Forspoken demo. Ooh, the Forspoken demo. Have you played that? No, you
No,
have
and
not.
I'm glad I haven't. I
No.
wasn't even looking forward to it in the first place, but when I asked you about it, the first thing I mentioned was the HDR and the lighting on that game looks absolutely overblown, like horrific. And it wasn't just yours. Everybody who showed any gameplay footage of that game, it looked just as terrible across the board.
It did.
And it didn't look like it performed well, and it looked pretty shallow in terms of its gameplay. Like it looked like an average hack and slashy mystical game.
You know, I wanted to like it. I really did because I thought the premise is good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And there's something to this combat system. Maybe if you play the game from the very beginning and you learn it more from the ground up, because you basically get thrown in the middle of the game where you have like already a tons of abilities, and then you have a super short tutorial. You have to press this and
Yeah.
this and this and this, and this is how do you switch. And then you just go out, kill a couple of enemies, and that's it. That's the demo. But yeah, the open world looked very generic. Graphics looked like, I want to say, an early PS4 game.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not sold.
And you know what it
Maybe
is?
it's a wait for sale. I don't know.
The bad thing is I know a lot of like even die-hard PlayStation fans. I'm not talking console warriors. I'm talking about actual PlayStation fans. Pio being one of them. Like everyone knows Pio on
Yeah,
Twitter.
sure.
Such a cool dude. He's like super hypes everything. Like he's looking forward to every game. And he was so hyped for Forspoken, and he downloaded it and he was like, "Yeah, this is not
isn't
it."
it. Yeah.
Yeah. He said, "I've just cancelled my pre-order and I'm gonna wait for a sale or something." He's like, "This is like no." So I'm no longer like looking forward to that game, unfortunately. I know Vin played it and he quite enjoyed it, but the vast majority of people that I spoke to were very underwhelmed by it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the only other one for me, and we have to shout them out because it's been a year of wait. We'll eventually get round to it. Wait, and it's come to the point now where nobody really cares anymore, and that's Halo Infinite.
Oh yeah.
Still goes into the pile for most disappointment of 2022 because it released at the tail end of last year, and it's been nothing but misery this year for it. And eventually, they've released a big update at the tail end of the year, but we've said it before. It feels like maybe it's a little bit too little, too late.
Yeah. I feel so too. I feel like
Great
the
gameplay.
game
Don't
is
get us wrong.
now.
It's great gameplay. Like we can't dispute that. It is the best a Halo has felt since its inception. It
Absolutely.
feels amazing. But the content just really wasn't there, and they've done like now they're literally relying on Forge content to keep it going. And what did I say the other month? I said they will use Forge to fill the gap on the fact that they have no other content to put in there, and that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah,
All
that's
of their
exactly what they're
content is now
doing.
coming from
And the
Forge.
thing, and the thing is, in case if they have actual like new content, will it really bring back a massive player base? I know there are certain diehard Halo fans, and if they bring out like a single player DLC, we all will play that. We will finish it in 10 hours and then move on to Starfield and Redfall and Forza and Stalker and Diablo and all these games that come next year. I feel like Halo had its chance. They should have stayed away from the live service model and just made it a normal multiplayer game like the previous Halos, with like map packs dropping 3 months and 6 months after launch, and then just let it run its course. I think they could have benefited from that, most certainly. So yeah, good stuff here. Good stuff. Dutch, let's move on. We are almost 2 hours already into the show, so I think because this week we have some amazing questions from the community, we should move on to the community questions.
Ooh, you're so good. Every day I hear the words from you.
All right. You have to show me that after the show again. How can I make the gameplay not restart from the beginning when I switch the scene here?
Yeah.
That's all right. Balrog in chat asks, what's this game I'm playing? It's Evil West, man. That's Evil West, what you're seeing right now.
Worth a play, in my opinion. It's,
Absolutely.
I'm looking forward to getting back to it. Unfortunately, High on Life is released now, and it's it's completely disrupted everything that I thought I was going to do after God of War. I was set on, right, okay, after God of War, I'm going to finish Evil West, and then I'm going to finish Plague Tale, and then I'm going to play High on Life, and then High on Life's come out, and I've got 4 more, and I'm like, nah, I'm going to play High on Life.
Yeah.
So I'm going to finish High on Life, and then I'm going to finish Evil West.
and then you go back to The Witcher, dude. You will.
And then Witcher's a Christmas game. Witcher's the Christmas game.
Nice, good.
Yeah.
No, I really liked Evil West. I gave it a 9. I know I'm compared to others that have reviewed the game relatively high on the score, but I stand by that. I had a blast playing it. Does it have the most sophisticated storyline? No, but it's still good. The storyline and the gameplay is king. The gameplay is so good with the game. I loved it. The pacing of it and everything, fantastic.
Easiest way to describe the gameplay for me is a cross between God of War and Gears of War.
Yes, absolutely. That's what I said also in my review. Exactly the same thing. It's a mixture in between those two games. And it's just pure fun. It's fun. It forces you to use like the different
all your abilities.
The weapons and everything your arsenal has to offer, because you cannot manually reload the guns. I know it sounds crazy, but trust me, once you get the hang of it, it makes sense, and it makes it unique and fun. Because it forces you to switch in between what your character has to offer and not just use the same gun through the entire game. So yeah, it's great, man. I had a blast with it. Definitely worth checking out. But that's not what we wanted to talk about, man. We wanted to talk about the community questions. And so the first one of the day comes in from actually Jonathan Smith, but we answered that earlier, more or less unintentional. He has asked, hey guys, with the apparent no-show of Microsoft game trailers at the Game Awards, do you believe they still have an underlying marketing issue, or were they legitimately not in a position to show anything worthwhile? I think we have answered that question. Still a fantastic question. That's why I wanted to shout it out. So Ribaldo asks, when do you think Xbox will expand its service, xCloud, and rewards, for instance, in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, and so on? They are still missing.
What was that, sorry?
I see you're distracted. Before I repeat, let me shout out.
Chat quickly there, yeah.
Since you're distracted with the chat anyway, we're gonna shout out Drawn TJ, who sends in the next super chat. Appreciated, man. He says Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown comes out next year. It does. Man, 23 is gonna be stacked. I know people always just talk about the Xbox stuff, but also third party wise. And I think we will have a show after Christmas and between New Year's where we just talk about everything that comes out, not just Xbox, but everything. Yeah. And Test Drive Unlimited Solar Crown looks fantastic, Drawn TJ. It does. I do hope it will be successful though, because it comes out in a time where I'm not sure how many people will actually pick it up, because there's just simply so many other games to play. And trust me, a lot of the good ones, a lot of the good games next year will suffer from that issue, that it's simply too crowded. So yeah, but coming back to the question, Ribaldo. Now focus, Dutch, focus. When do you think Xbox will expand its service, xCloud rewards, for instance, in the Middle East, Israel, Saudi Arabia, they are still missing?
It's a good question, but this is, along with marketing, localization, something that we've been shouting at them for a bit. I don't know is the honest answer. We want them to expand, and there's many territories even in Europe that still don't have rewards,
or in some countries you cannot even pay in the Microsoft store with a credit card.
You've got to use
Serbia,
buy the top up
or so.
You've got to buy the top up cards and then put that on first, and then be able to download, which is really weird. It's localization's just an issue Microsoft need to get to the bottom of, and I think it's something that they're missing out of. I honestly believe they would probably have a lot more sales and a lot more transactions going down if a lot of these countries were actually able to, and it's why some of their competitors are winning in these regions, because they have ecosystems that allow people to purchase things digitally. They allow systems that have these reward systems everywhere. I think even PlayStation Stars, which is the new one, I think that localization is already better than Xbox's localization.
Mm-hmm.
They need to improve. They do, honestly. I couldn't tell you when. I couldn't tell you when, to be honest.
I couldn't tell either. I thought about it. The thing is, they did do a lot better in terms of the Xbox Series X launch, for instance, on a global scale. I think it was like 15 or 16 countries where they launched the Series X simultaneously, because during the Xbox One generation, countries like the Netherlands, we have a lot of people here from the Netherlands in the chat, I can tell, they didn't get the Xbox One like till a year or year and a half later.
Erwin had to drive to Germany for it.
Yeah, exactly. So at least they did that better this time, but of course there are still a lot of markets missing. For some reason, that's either not a business case for them, or they don't see like a growth opportunity in these kind of markets, whatever. But I agree with one thing. For a company that says, hey, we want to reach 3 billion gamers, they are missing in a lot of markets. So, man, I do hope. I assume you live, pardon me, somewhere in the Middle East, and I do hope that those gamers will get the joy of game rewards and xCloud.
I was going to say, shout out to Painful Discourse in the chat as well. He says Poland has rewards for a few months now. However, it's only in Bing and not on Xbox.
Okay.
So it's
I don't
like I say, like we mentioned before, it's even sections of Eastern Europe and things like that is still like these are European territories, and even they still don't have reward systems in place properly or at all.
Yeah, agree.
So I'd love to be able to give them a positive answer, but I think it's going to be until Microsoft actually want to reach 3 billion gamers. They're not going to do that if the localization isn't improving.
Absolutely. 100%. That's why I thought it was a fantastic question. Thank you, Ribaldo. Drawn TJ says in chat, yeah, Arc 2 is coming next year in Game Pass. So many things, indeed. With Vin Diesel, man.
Yes.
Vin Diesel riding dinosaurs.
Yeah, and that's an Xbox exclusive. That is so weird.
It is. It is. Also running in Unreal 5.
Yeah, and it's a proper single-player experience.
That's what I'm so surprised about. Because the first one, have you played the first one?
Yeah, it's bad.
It's like the most weird game I have ever played, I think. I was like...
Yeah, it's the one with like a really huge upper torso and like barely any legs, wearing underpants, running around, hitting trees. I was like, what is going on in this game?
It was the first game that came to early access on console. So I played it. I downloaded it the day it dropped in early access on Xbox One. I downloaded that. There was like permanently that command window open in that. There was literally no tutorial, nothing you knew, not even close what you need to do. So I fooled around with it, and then okay, thank you, but no. But then it became this massive success. Everyone was playing that game. To this day, it is super successful. Ark is a very, very successful game. So people probably underestimate how big that actually is, that Ark is coming. But I gave it a chance, I want to say, I don't know, a year and a half after it came to early access, because I thought, well, it must have improved, right? I mean, they had it now for, I don't know, a year or so on the system, so things have to have improved, and millions of people are playing and loving that game. So I booted it up, and it was the same weird thing again. So yeah, but if it's now like a proper release with a single player campaign, I mean, I love me some good dinosaur games. Yeah, I haven't shot a dinosaur in a while, so I'm ready for that. And
to be fair, there's a really interesting I keep forgetting the name of it, but it was on my indie showcase. There was an indie dinosaur game that was going on there that looked phenomenal. It was like a horror Jurassic Park, and
like a Dino Crisis, or
yeah, but more realistic, more like where you've got to like run away from the dinosaurs because they will eat you. I'll have to dig out the name of it, because I think when you see it as well, you'll be like, oh, holy shit, that looks unbelievable. Like that is a proper dinosaur game that I want to play, because it looks super cool. But yeah, go on.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Dinosaurs. Now I'm in the mood to shoot dinosaurs for some reason. Sith Lord asks, would you have been satisfied if Xbox announced a date for an upcoming event at or before the Game Awards? I mean, if it's okay, I'm gonna answer first this time. I feel like that's the temper expectation thing. If they would have come out up front saying, we're not gonna show anything, pardon me, at the Game Awards, but we have a showcase in January, so stay tuned. Expectations would have been tempered. I still think it would have been a miss, because for the obvious reason, like I said earlier, that it's a stage for more than just the Xbox audience. But at least I would have not been disappointed. So
yeah, I agree. It's usually they do these things, and what was even stranger was seeing both Sarah Bond and Phil Spencer there, and it seemed more on the face of things now kind of obligatory to be there. Like they felt obliged as opposed to wanted to be.
Yeah.
Because there was nothing to show, and they had nobody part of those awards.
Yeah. Agree? Yeah.
So it was a massive missed opportunity. So when people saw those in the crowd, they thought, Xbox are taking part this year because he's here. And they don't have anything in the awards, so you'd expect them to be showing something. And then, of course, nothing gets shown, and you're like, so all we got was Game Pass ads? Right,
Yep.
okay. Brill. Yeah, which is why it felt even more of a missed opportunity, because it was like, okay, so you'll run a Game Pass ad, but it'll not show anything else.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's definitely a missed opportunity. And I think that sometimes their messaging has been pretty poor. And I think even that showcase where they said, "Oh, we're going to focus," they didn't say we're not going to have a look at the future of Xbox games. What they said is our focus will be 12 months. They didn't say we are only showing 12 months.
Yeah.
And that was the issue they had before the E3 showcase as well. They didn't like the message in there still wasn't ultra clear. It still wasn't. We're only showing 12 months. It was our focus is 12 months. Okay.
Agree.
So is that only 12 months, or 12 months maybe is in a look, like mostly 12 months and a look at what's after that?
Yeah.
Yeah, the messaging, I think, in some cases they've been ultra transparent and spoke a lot, and in other cases have completely messed up.
Yeah, I agree. Let's move on, because we have talked about this. It is what it is, and we cannot wait to see what January brings. But Emblick sends in the last question of the day. Then we let everyone out of here. He says, "What a jam-packed episode! Cheers, Dutch and Box. Earlier this year, CD Projekt Red made an unprecedented move and announced the next 3 Witcher games, next Cyberpunk, a new IP, and more, all to be released by 2030. Do you think CD Projekt Red was advertising themselves for sale by showing off what they had in the pipeline? So who do you see purchasing them?" Dude, I had the exact same thought, and I bought some CD Projekt Red stock. And it was a good decision to do so, because the stock has increased 20% ever since. So, but Dutch, what do you think?
No, I don't think they're going to sell. I think ultimately they've got too much in the pipeline. They've still got the Witcher TV series. They've had an unbelievably successful Edge Runner show. You don't sell when you're going on the up. You sell when you kind of, should we say, temper the future expectations when you're trying to get rid, or you're trying to sell. You're trying to get investors in or people to take over and sell the product. You don't continuously provide a future pipeline that is going to rapidly increase your share price, because then trying to find a buyer becomes more difficult, not the opposite way around. So for me, it's the opposite. We've also got to remember the fact that, of course, the Polish government have highly invested in CD Projekt Red. They've got a lot of money and a lot of shares in the company. So it would not only be talking to CDPR about this, CDPR and the Polish government would have to speak about this, and the Polish government would want to recoup what they've invested. But ultimately, what they want to do, and I think the Polish government are wanting to do, is they have something that they can shout from the rooftops that they've looked at this, what we've invested in, and look how successful it is. And this is our these are Polish creators and Polish developers and Polish artists, and we've invested in the art, and look how well it's doing. And ultimately, that's like a little kind of gem to put on the top of their crown to say, look at this is what we've done. And ultimately, personally, I'd love for other nations to do that within some in-house independent studios.
They do.
Like,
Crytek, for instance, is an example where the German government did the exact same thing. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, they stepped in. They had financial troubles. They stepped in, and they're still supporting that studio. Yeah.
Yeah. And Germany and the UK and the US, and ultimately it's about investing in the arts. And these are art platforms, and I don't see why CDPR, personally, I don't see why they would need to be taken over. They've got their own distribution platform in GOG.
Yeah,
they've got they've got their own in-house technologies. Yes, they're not using CryEngine. They're not using the Red Engine going forwards. But they're, of course, switching over to Unreal. I think that's just to potentially speed up processes, specifically speed up processes for the games going forwards.
It's not just
and
that.
which is
I
when
think
you mentioned
they
the
that's
timeline as well of the trilogy, the timeline of the
yeah.
trilogy. They've mentioned within a 6-year period, all 3 of the trilogy will be out, which is phenomenal, of course. But I think that could only be done if all of the assets and they're happy with the fact that, okay, with Unreal, we're going to be able to make this a reality. With our own engine, that would never have been a reality because it would have took too much. We'd have to redo the assets. We'd have to do the X, Y, and Z. With Unreal, the process becomes a lot more smoother, a lot quicker.
And I think it's also the discussion we had earlier, like hiring talent. The onboarding process is significantly faster. You can more easily outsource stuff if you have a like a universal platform. That's definitely something. And let's not forget, they try to grow. They have founded a studio in the US that's gonna take care of that Witcher Online game. Yeah, that
Yep.
MMO kind of Witcher game that they have announced. They have set up multiple teams now for Cyberpunk, for the Witcher trilogy, and for the spin-off. So it's they are trying to like really grow their studio, and of course having like an Unreal as a baseline definitely helps them there. I also think, why have they done that? Because it is an interesting question. Why have they announced basically their entire roadmap till 2023? I think
I personally think it's to restore faith from the investors that were
yeah, exactly. I think that's the thing. If you look at their stock price after Cyberpunk, it dropped like 80% down or so. From above 100, they went down to 20 euros or so, where they were traded. And having that faith, okay, listen, we are not just doubling down on Cyberpunk and do a sequel. We have like the game that made us big, The Witcher 3, fully planned out as a trilogy. And you will see like returning revenue in a 3-year cycle. You will also get like an ongoing live service game, MMO type of game, that will continuously bring in revenue. And we try to do stuff with a spin-off and even work on a new IP. So here, that's why you should invest in us.
And also, they've kind of stipulated within that they are the future of CDPR. These 3 major franchises: Cyberpunk, Witcher, and the new IP. And they've stipulated those are the 3 IPs that we will be known for. Those are the 3 staple IPs, and those will be the universes we expand on going forwards. Nothing else. It'll be Witcher, Cyberpunk, and the new IP, which will be separate from both. So you'll have a futuristic cyberpunk setting and all of that IP. You'll have the medieval fantasy Witcher world and that IP. And then you'll have something entirely separate from both of those. Maybe it's even a modern day IP, which is something that we haven't seen from them. So they've kind of covered all bases: future, past, and then kind of semi-realistic.
Or sci-fi. I was also thinking about them going sci-fi. And I mean, I know Cyberpunk kind of is sci-fi, but then I'm like really in space, like. So yeah, we shall see. We shall see. Exciting things coming from CD Projekt Red. But now, guys, let's just all play The Witcher 3 again. Definitely highly recommended. It is fantastic.
Until Phantom Liberty comes out, and then jump on Cyberpunk again, and then
exactly.
I'm still looking forward to that game.
Absolutely. Me too, man. Me too. So, Dutch. I think that's it. That's the show for today.
That's your first 2K60 show wrapped up.
Right. So I hope everyone enjoyed the 1440p 60 FPS stream. I cannot stop saying it. I love that we have the honor to bring that quality. At least, people can now talk about what we say might be shit or not, or I don't know. But people cannot say it does not look good. It does look good. So at least we got that down, man. At least we got that down. Yeah, but no, thank you everyone who tuned in today. As always, it's been a blast. The chat has been super positive, super awesome discussions there. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to everyone who listens on the podcast services. And Dutch, let everyone know what you have coming up, because there is something super special that you have organized once again. So tell about it.
Yes. So of all of this week, we are doing the midweek mix-up charity drive. I want to give a huge shout out to our European contingent. So Hertog Vin, Patje, Emil, Stuff, Sean. All of those guys have absolutely smashed the Dutch charity we're raising for. So they had a target of originally 700. They already well beyond that. They then had to increase to 1,000, and they've beat that. And they've put it up at 1,100, and they've now beat that. So they've got 1,100 euros raised for a charity called Villa Joop, which is for children with neuroblastoma. So huge congratulations to them for raising so much money for an awesome charity to help kids with a very rare form of cancer. And ourselves, the UK contingent and the rest of the Midweek Mix-Up gang are raising money for Special Effect. So Special Effect is a charity that helps disabled children be able to play video games. Of course, we all love video games. All of us able-bodied people are able to play video games with no issues. But of course, there's a lot of disabled children out there with physical and mental disabilities that are unable to do so, or unable to do so and enjoy it with their friends or their family members. And Special Effect provide them the tools and the equipment and the support in order to play video games like normal children should be able to, despite their disabilities. That could be accessibility controllers, it could be eye tracking technology, or anything in between. So we're doing a mammoth 24-hour stream on the weekend, starting at 11 a.m. UK, so 12 p.m. in Europe, all the way through until 11 a.m. On Sunday. So that's going to be awesome. That's 6 a.m. Eastern, by the way, for the American crowd as well, all the way through until 6 a.m. Eastern the next day. We're raising money for that. And I'll put a link in the chat for that one as well. That is Special Effect. So every little helps, guys. If you are able to jump in and support, that'll be much appreciated. And likewise, of course, throughout that 24-hour period, we've selected a host of community games, so people can actually jump in and play games with us. Call of Duty, Halo, golf with your friends, and a few other titles. We've got the schedule up on Twitter now as well. So if anybody wants to jump in and support or play games with us whilst we're doing this 24-hour marathon stream, please do so. But that is essentially the way we're ending this year strong for us on Midweek Mix-Up. So we're doing this big go out. We've already finished our mammoth 100th episode stream for the Midweek Mix-Up podcast yesterday, and that was our last podcast for the year, which was awesome. We had King David there from Iron Lords. So yes, we've ended our podcast for the year there, and our final big show is this weekend for the 24-hour stream for charity. So if you can, please, every little helps. Please drop a little donation there if you can, and help some kids play some video games this Christmas that might not otherwise be able to.
Yeah. And in case you wonder where you can find it, I just put it also in the show notes. Click in the description here down below. You will find the link that you also have put now in the chat. It's a great thing of you guys to do that. So yeah, guys, if you can share or spend a little something, definitely check that out. It's a good cause. It's a good thing that they do. And thank you from the community for organizing that, man. So yeah,
absolutely. It's good to give back. It's good to give back, Boxy. We talk about video games so much, and we had such success last year doing exactly the same thing for a diabetes charity and a cancer charity last year. So we want to do it to kind of keep it as a staple thing for the end of the year every year, and do a charity drive and give back to charities and kind of do our bit, should we say?
Yeah. No, truly good stuff. I mean it. So yeah, definitely check that out. Again, the link is in the description. Other than that, guys, we will have a show next week here on the World of Gaming. Gonna have an Xbox in 2023 and beyond show with hopefully a very special guest. And other than that, I want to say again, thank you to everyone who showed up here today. Hopefully you guys liked it. Now my voice is going.
You lasted long enough. You lasted long. You did it till the end. Oh, you're muted now.
Now I'm muted. Okay. Yeah, that's better that you don't hear the coughing all the time. Yeah. Again, thanks for showing up. Thank you also for all the super chats and the support. I really appreciate it. Means a lot. And yeah, other than that, I hope you enjoyed the show and don't forget to game on.